A very good evening and welcome to the national broadcast. I am Malsha Dharmavardhana.
Good evening. I am Lakshita Singha. Starting off, we take a quick look at the headlines. The Prime Minister instructs the central bank governor to provide relief in a manner to minimize import restrictions on non-essential goods and equipment. The releasing of containers of essential food items begins. The quarantine curfew is to be withdrawn from next Friday. The agreement pertaining to the 55th annual session of the Asian Development Bank, scheduled to be held in Sri Lanka, has been signed. The UNICEF requests Sri Lanka to reopen schools without delay. The vehicles being renovated under the government's program to repair condemned vehicles are being handed over to the respective state institutions. We'll start off with the top story for tonight. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivard Cabral today to provide relief in a manner to minimize as much as possible the import restrictions currently being imposed on non-essential commodities and equipment. The Prime Minister has given the order taking into consideration of the difficulties being experienced by the entrepreneurs as well as the general public due to import restrictions.
Meanwhile, Minister Rohita Abegunawardena says that necessary measures have been taken to release the container laden with essential food items currently detained at the Colombo harbour with effect from this afternoon. The decision have been taken according to the instructions provided by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at a recent meeting of the cost of living meeting. More than 750 containers with essential food stocks are being stranded at 4 terminals of the Colombo harbour. The customs have steps to detain the containers due to inability of the imports to provide the necessary US dollars to purchase the goods for several days. The Prime Minister has ordered the officials to release the stocks of essential food items as soon as possible to enable the general public to receive these items without any shortage. The Prime Minister has also instructed Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivard Cabral to release the required American dollars to state and private banks. Minister Rohita Abegunawardena has presided over a special discussion on the methodologies in releasing containers with essential food items at the Ports Ministry today. Secretary to the Ministry of Ports, Secretary to the Ministry of Trade, Director General of Customs and officials of the Association of Imports of Essential Food Items have participated in the discussion. In-depth attention has been focused at the meeting on the problems faced by importers in releasing food stocks.
Minister of Agriculture Mahindanand Alutkamage says that a decision has been taken not to import the stock of organic fertilizer with nitrogen scheduled to be ordered from a Chinese company. The reason being the detection of bacteria harmful to the soil of Sri Lanka upon examination of samples of the relevant company. The minister has made these remarks at a media briefing at the ministry today. Minister Mahindanand Alutkamage said international bids have been called for the importation of a nitrogen extract from China for the upcoming Maha season. It has been found out that microorganisms harmful to the soil exist in some fertilizer stocks imported to the country. The minister added that the Agricultural Ministry has decided today not to import such fertilizer stocks. He added that during the past 5 years, harmful fertilizer identified in laboratory tests had been handed over to the farmers by altering examination reports. Only fertilizer not harmful to the soil is being imported. 23 companies have handed over license for the supply of high-quality nitrogen extracts. The minister added that therefore there will be no shortage of fertilizer in the coming cultivating seasons. The minister, commenting on the fixing of the paddy price, said the government will determine the prices, strengthening the farmer. He added that paddy mill owners will not be allowed to determine the prices. The National Operational Centre for the Prevention of the Spread of the COVID-19 outbreak says that the existing island-wide quarantine curfew will be lifted at 4 a.m. on the 1st of next month. Head of the Centre, General Shavendra Silva, says that the decision has been taken on the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Department of Government Information in a media release says that the Director General of Health Services will release shortly the health guidelines to be followed upon the withdrawal of the quarantine curfew. Meanwhile, the health divisions point out the continuous cooperation of the general public is essential to maintain the decline in the numbers of corona-infected persons recorded daily. 685 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country today. 45,881 persons are currently receiving treatment. Meanwhile, 770 patients left the hospitals today following recovery. The total number of fully recovered patients is 456,857. The Director General of Health Services has reported today 61 COVID-19 related deaths which occurred yesterday. 47 out of them were those above the age of 60 years. The number of victims between the ages of 30 and 59 is 14. The SMS service of the number 1904 on corona-infected persons and the call service of the number 247 are being continuously maintained. The Health Ministry has issued a series of guidelines for local and foreign airline passengers. According to the guidelines scheduled to be implemented with effect from midnight last night, it is not necessary for Sri Lankans entering the country to receive the permission of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Civil Aviation Authority. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena says that it has been decided to administer the Pfizer vaccine as a booster vaccine for persons above the age of 60 years, persons between the ages of 30 and 60 years, persons suffering from disabilities and diseases, as well as health division employees and frontline workers. He adds that a decision has also been taken to inoculate the Pfizer vaccine as the third dose to cancer and kidney patients as well. A vaccination program on children with special needs, inherent diseases and complications in the Western Province as well as in the Kurunegala and Anuradhapura districts was also conducted successfully today. The program to inoculate persons between the ages of 20 and 29 years is being carried out continuously. Activities at the vaccination centre set up at the Diyatha Uyana premises in Pathramulla are also being carried out effectively. $26,171,815 vaccine doses have been given to the people under the COVID-19 vaccination program. 14,471,052 have been given the first dose of a vaccine. 11,700,763 have been given both doses of a vaccine.
Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath made remarks on the newly amended quarantine guidelines for travellers arriving from overseas.
New guidelines to handle the persons arriving at the Katnayaka International Airport has been now released, and it is available in the website, and it's a complicated long circular, so it is within the very short period time. It is extremely difficult to give the full details of this circular. However, in summary, the main aim of issuing this circular is to ensure that those who are arriving in Sri Lanka after getting the full vaccine coverage, that is after getting the 1 or 2 recommended doses of specific vaccines, and those who have followed the specific period of time after getting the required doses of vaccination need to be released from the airport with minimal inconvenience, for which these guidelines have been set apart. So therefore, we request the public to go through the website and get the details, and also all those authorities who are relevant or who are taking part in implementing these circulars need to act based on such recommendations, so that it will be we will be able to provide the necessary protection and also the services without much inconvenience. With regards to the PCR test performed on the persons who are coming from Middle East returnees, again, the Health Ministry will give or publish the specific guidelines in the coming days as and when required, or based on the current guideline, what will be the procedure will be in the coming 1 or 2 days that will be published. In addition to that, the question raised about the introduction or discovery of a tablet related to COVID-19 treatment, our experts in this field are reviewing such evidence and such reports and the products introduced by different parties, and this will be reviewed continuously by the experts related to these fields, and they will make their recommendations whether it is acceptable also. And these new products will be reviewed internationally also by different experts, and these reports also need to be considered, and finally, if these things are effective and safe, these will be again introduced in due course depending on the recommendations of relevant experts.
The Asian Development Bank has decided to conduct the 55th annual session of the bank in May of next year. The signing of the relevant agreement of understanding was held at the Finance Ministry today. Secretary to the Ministry of Finance S.R. Article and Director General of the South Asian Department of the Asian Development Bank Kenshio Koyana have signed the agreement. The session is scheduled to be held from the 2nd to the 5th of May. The ADB has decided on the participation of 3,000 to 5,000 representatives of the member countries at the event. The theme of the conference is Positioning on a Green Economy in line with post-COVID-19 and climatic changes. Minister Basil Rajapaksa says that Sri Lanka is the second country chosen in the zone to hold an annual session. He added that Sri Lanka is the most suitable venue. Sri Lanka gives prominence to COVID vaccination. The minister has sought the assistance of the bank to restore small and medium sector businesses affected by the pandemic. Secretary General of the bank Muhammad Ishan Khan, expressing his views through online, said that Sri Lanka has reached an optimum level in the management of the COVID pandemic. Therefore, Sri Lanka is the most secured country to hold the summit.
The UNICEF says it has focused attention on the government's program for the speedy reopening of schools. UNICEF local representative Christian Cook made these remarks at a media briefing on World Children's Day today.
First of all, the education hasn't stopped. We have tried to, I think the government has done a very good job in trying to continue education even if schools were closed. And we have supported the Ministry of Education in getting to update the material for television, for radio, for internet so that the education could continue. The biggest step will be to reopen schools. That is the most important. Children need to be, to the extent possible, in an environment where they are with their peers, with their friends, and with their teachers, because it's not only about the academics, it's also about the social interaction. That's extremely important. So the steps we need to take is to make sure that the schools can reopen as soon as possible under safe conditions. In Sri Lanka, as in many countries, there are gaps and differences in learning opportunities. These have been accentuated during the time of COVID. We see that the possibility to continue to learn at an adequate level has been hampered, particularly, as you say, in the more vulnerable, more remote areas where particularly internet connection is not assured. And the best interactive education by a distance, it's been a struggle. Significant efforts to, like I mentioned, have content that compensates for what they can't get in school. Teachers having gone more than extra mile to reach their students, to interact with their students. But the gaps have accentuated, and that's why the biggest equalizer will be to get children back to school. The government is prioritizing those smaller schools, and they tend to be in rural areas, in poorer areas, so that will help in equalizing a bit the possibility of quality learning. The mental health aspect is something often forgotten. Perhaps the biggest effect of the pandemic, not the pandemic itself, but the restrictions and the measures that all governments have taken to limit movement, to limit school presence, is probably the mental health, not only of children but also of adults. Having been confined in the home for long periods takes a serious toll. We know that depression goes up, the stress goes up among all members of a family. So it's very important to raise the issue, to seek support, so the family needs to come together, to generate space and opportunity to share how they feel and to overcome them through play. Parents to accompany their children. That can be homework, can be schoolwork, but it can also be other things that happen at home. In UNICEF, we believe that everything should be done to get children back to school. That will be the biggest support to mental health of children and their parents.
Minister Udaya Gammampila, at a media briefing in Colombo today, said he could state with responsibility that there will not be any form of oil shortage in the country. Minister Udaya Gammampila said that prominent members of the opposition, including opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, have predicted of a fuel shortage. He further said that the opposition has inquired whether the decision on countrywide lockdown was based on hiding the problem caused due to oil shortage. The minister said that it was due to the scientific fact presented by the Sri Lanka Medical Council that had necessitated to close down the country till the 1st of October. The minister further said that he had not created any impact on the SLMC on a lockdown. In more stories, Johanni de Silva has been entrusted with the opportunity to join background singing in a mainstream Bollywood film for the first time in the history. Accordingly, she will sing the theme song of the movie Shiddat, which is scheduled to commence screening in India and worldwide from next Friday. Johanni de Silva, who has become immensely popular by the song Manike Mage Hite, has left for India this morning to participate in 2 music concerts. These events will take place in Delhi and Hyderabad tomorrow and next Sunday.
The first vehicle reports are reaching from all parts of the country of farmers successfully engaged in cultivations using organic fertilizer. They are reaping bountiful harvest. This is a prosperous paddy field being maintained in Kolonnava Divisional Secretariat Division. Local paddy variety Mavi is being cultivated in an extent of 55 acres using the waters of the Mulleriava Lake. This is a scene of a successful vegetable and a fruit cultivation carried out in Kanagaraya Kulam, Vaunia, using extensively organic fertilizer. 20 acres of land have come under cultivation with the participation of even a group of persons of disabilities.
State Minister Duminda Disanayaka says that measures will be taken to convene proposals from local and foreign investors for the implementation of renewable power projects in the country. The objective is to set up renewable power plants of the capacity exceeding 50 megawatts activated by natural sources of energy such as solar, wind and floating solar devices are to be set up in shallow seas. The Cabinet has granted approval recently to set up new projects of renewable power through the assistance of the private sector. The relevant proposals are to be convened according to these guidelines. The State Ministry of Solar Energy, Wind and Hydropower Generation Development says that it is necessary for the investors to fulfill the requirements stated in the Renewable Energy Authority Bill. The list of proposals could be downloaded from the website of the Sri Lanka Renewable Energy Authority. A request has been made to hand over the proposals in person or through registered mail to the email of the Ministry before the 1st of November. The government's objective is to meet 70% of the country's power requirement through renewable sources of energy by the year 2030. The State Ministry says in order to realize this target, 3,500 megawatts through wind power and 4,800 megawatts through solar power will have to be added to the national grid. And with that, we wrap up tonight's bulletin. Do join us for tomorrow for the very latest. Until then, stay safe and good night.
Good night.